get Richard on Thingamajig, right? So he can be co-host. Usual rule with this technology: if it all goes dead, then I will probably try and get on. If not, then whatever. Before anyone says it, Goff wants to finish at 9 o'clock. Richard wants to go to bed at 9 o'clock. And Bill, we need to start off with any news from you, darling.
Well, from Wales, of course, they've this farmer discovered there's a gold mini torque or bracelet in North Wales, which they're trying to analyze at the moment, solid gold. And
That
of course,
is interesting.
and of course, the in the old hospital in Cardigan this week, they found the skeletal remains of a number of bodies,
That's not good.
and they've dated it back to the 12th century in the days of the old priory there. So watch that story. That one will develop over the coming days and weeks.
Okay.
Yep. It may be too hot off the press for you to find anything at the moment.
Well, yeah, I got to be honest with you. It's been raining a lot, but the ground is quite still hard. So yeah, I've been following these excavations that they've been having on the island of Guernsey, and they've got a mixture of prehistoric stuff, Second World War stuff, Victorian, and Roman, which is near the nunnery. Which is the site? Oh, not Guernsey, Alderney. Sorry, which is near the nunnery site, which is otherwise the Roman fort, which is one of the most complete Roman forts anywhere in the world, really. So they've been excavating near there. So I've been keeping up to date with that. If there's anything more, I will let you know. Right, Anne. If you want to introduce yourself, nobody's ever met you before, so Anne. Don't have to put your fingers in your mouth. Just talk.
I thought we were going to have a look at my eyes. Not my eyes, but the eyes sculpture. The marble sculpture.
Oh, right. Yes.
Talk about its identity. But, and you said you were going to do that. You're going to show it. But...
Yeah, go on.
I've just been away for a few months, having a break, and looking after various projects and and myself. And well, actually, I just had to
need a break.
Yeah, I just needed a break. Yeah.
Oh, everyone needs a break from Bill now and again, so that's good. And what I'm gonna do with this sculpture thingamajig, I just because you were gonna talk about it, weren't you? And I was gonna show the image.
Yeah, I've got the image on here, but I don't know if you could see it.
And look, the best thing to do, what I'll do, we'll after the break, we'll have a look at it, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna have to reboot it on the system, and basically it's to do with Anne. She's got a weird image, and she's gonna have a little talk about it. So, which is quite strange.
Yeah.
So we'll do that after the break, Anne. So that'll be fine. So, right, anything from you, Richard?
Well, the only thing I've seen is starting to dig again down Lambswit.
On the
church there.
Hang on a minute. On the church or in the Bishop's Field?
Well, that's the field. Virtually the other side, isn't it?
Is that Peter Guest again?
The beach side.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
See, they've stripped all the turf back, and
that's becoming a regular thing now.
Yeah,
so
it's about the third year, I think, isn't it?
No, I think it's a bit longer than that. Because no, they basically, when I was teaching in Lantworth Major, they were doing stuff back then, and my God, Goff, it's been over 6 years since I've actually seen Goff. Amazing. Anyway, thanks for that, Richard. And it's good. It's good. Nobody said anything about politics tonight. Let's have a politics-free evening, right? But anything you would like to say, Goff?
No, nothing. No.
Is it me or you guys are quiet or one of you's quiet? And Richard, just say something again.
Sorry, I got my mouth full.
Oh right, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
That'll do.
So we got a weird few things tonight. We got a little bit more about Pompeii, and in fact there was something else about Pompeii which I've not put up, which I'm going to do next week. We're going to be looking. Somebody has enhanced. Will in the Tuesday class, he's enhanced some images from 1902 from an archaeological excavation at Rough Castle, which we did last week, right? And they look really good. We're going to be looking at a site beyond the frontier, way beyond the frontier, the fort of Ardok, right? And we're going to be looking at the lost frontier of the Gascoigne, which is beyond the Antonine Wall, which is the frontier that nobody really talks about. And we're also going to be talking about another frontier that may have been or may not have been, but we look at it from the archaeological angle, and it turns out that another frontier in Roman era Britain may not be. So we'll just see what we can get through. So let's just try and get my sharing up. Sharing is caring. And I don't know why the sun's out in Lantuit Major, but it seems to be quite shining there. So let actually what we're going to do, we're going to start off with one of the items that I just mentioned. So let's just share, and we're going to go with their different technology than you were with us last time, and I got a little bit more faffing around. Right, so can you see this on the screen?
What is it?
Exactly, what is it? Right, but basically this is a granary, right? And last week I showed you a black and white image of the granary, right? And this is the granary at Rough Castle. No, we won't look at this colorized one, but the interesting thing is that when you look at this image, it doesn't look like it was taken many years ago. This was actually taken in 1902. So Will, on a Tuesday, he's got the technology to bring color to these images. And it looks like, if, for example, it looks like an archaeological excavation with some of the color gone from the 1980s. And I think this is really interesting because it brings the archaeology that was excavated at a site along the Antonine Wall, basically just the eastern side of Glasgow, just before you get to Edinburgh, Rough Castle, the fort there, which was one of the smaller of the forts along the Antonine Wall, all 16 of them, but it's the most excavated site. And Rough Castle itself, this is the granary. And I'm looking at this, and to be honest with you, I'm looking at this. If I had this last week, I would have basically said you can clearly see the buttresses here, which are typical of the granaries. This is a modern wall, by the way. When I say modern, it's not Roman. This is clearly the template of a Roman granary. It's made of stone. You've got some really nice stonework here as well. And the point is this: I just wanted to give you a different perspective. So when you color photographs, particularly photographs from the First or Second World War, it brings faces, it brings buildings, it brings things alive. So this is sort of the technology that is being used out there now to sort of bring a little bit more life. So if you go back to these black and white publications, put a bit of color in them, it really makes them speak volumes. Now, I wanted to. The reason why we've gone back to Pompeii was because we had a lot of discussion about Pompeii last week. So I can zoom in a little bit more, right? And we can do this, and we can go there. Oh, and by the way, my film, which was Wildfire Outbreak UK, I've been nominated in 6 film festivals, even though I'm an award winner now, right? Things are changing quite rapidly. Right, this was another point. This was another point. Somebody on Tuesday, they were saying, I got some news, and it was actually news from some years ago. I got caught out by this on Monday because I was looking through various different things to research this tonight. And interesting enough, I thought, wow, headline news: archaeologists in southern Turkey unearthed the marble foot of a life-size statue of Marcus Aurelius. by far one of the greatest Roman emperors. And Marcus Aurelius, you could think basically roughly this might be a marble statue, roughly maybe, if we want to do about the if we want to look at the dates, say roughly about the 170, somewhere like that in Turkey. But when you look at that, the detail is really, really great. And I tell you what, he had better feet than me.
How can you tell it's Marcus Aurelius from that?
Because there's an inscription associated with the remains of this foot. That's why.
Okay, that's the answer.
That's basically. So yeah, that's basically answered the question. But when you look at something like this, it's like really, really lifelike. But it goes into what I say a lot of the times when we look at Roman era archaeology. I basically say looking at a little bit of a marble foot here, and this might represent 0.5% of all the marble stuff that was associated with the temple it's associated with, and this is all that there is. But the other point is that I thought this was a new find, and it's not. I've never seen this before. So this goes back to 1908. This goes back to 2008. So it's pretty old press report, really, 2008. But then again, it's good to bring these things back to us. So again, what we've got is we've got a little bit of more about Pompeii, and we really got into Pompeii last week. And somebody mentioned last week, I mean, it's a really nice image. This is one. We've sort of shown something similar before to this image, because last week, I think Anne may not have seen this last week. So last week, what we had, we were looking at some really nice images on how streets align, and sort of a study of streets, lanes, roadways in Pompeii. And this is one of the much wider ones. And I did say that there were much wider streets, for normal pedestrian traffic, right? That you could actually get two carts alongside each other. But when I actually mentioned this, Henry basically said, well, it would be a little bit difficult anyway, even though this is quite wide. And what you've got is other things that are shown in this image rather than last week. Obviously, you've got the wear away in the limestone slabs on the floor here. But you've got these weird little cobbles on the side, and you've got these stepping stones. So one of the points that was made to me last night is somebody said, oh, they were thinking about this. And last week we had some really, really narrow roadways. And instead of having a nice pedestrian way on the left-hand side, wide one, and a pedestrian way on the right-hand side, you had a narrow pedestrian way on the left-hand side, and basically curbstones on the right-hand side. And somebody basically mentioned, just imagine if it's like a really narrow street and you've got some shop holders on the left-hand side, they might actually put some of their wares along the curbstone. So I like that sort of look at history. And again, we've shown this image before, but what they are doing with Pompeii now, that they're starting to do some reconstructions. This was an area that they excavated, and they've sort of managed to preserve some of the original height, because this is where it was, some of the unexcavated stuff of Pompeii in the last decade. And again, what they're really doing is that they're now starting to do something I always used to dream of when I was a child 40 years ago, sort of making Pompeii more relevant to people when they actually visit. So and what they're going to do with this, I don't know. So if they try and bring this more to life, I'd be really interested to see what they actually make of Pompeii. But they're totally new to us with some of the images. These are from the likes of Henry as well. And we're looking again. So we go on to the other images, which are slightly more familiar. But we mentioned the likes of this last week. But one thing I want to basically mention, this sort of taverna type idea, when we look at the likes of Pompeii, and we just think that again, this brings it to life. Somebody mentioned last night, they said, well, how do you get liquid out of an amphora? And I know we did a whole sort of bit of a class on this, and we were basically doing a little bit more research on amphoras rather than these sort of big sort of drumoses, these great sort of containers sort of held there, and you've got some of the remains of them over here. And well, obviously you can get this out with the ladle, but an amphora, we got a really narrow neck, and we started reading into it. And we started thinking some of the amphora, we got talk that they actually use siphons to actually get the liquid out. So that's a really interesting sort of lead, looking at amphora, and again looking into this sort of scene of a building that was last used and last part of the Roman world on 24th of August in the year AD 79. So this is again some more of what the other image of the roadway, and you're talking about these sort of weird sort of cobbles sort of sticking out, these sort of cobbles, obviously a little bit more of a shop sort of maybe this is another sort of outlet for sort of drink and various other types of food. And again, this is something that I was mentioning last week about. You've got these marble along the normal pedestrian routes and some of the wider roadways. You've got these sort of marble sort of troughs, marble fountains as a way, lots of these in Pompeii. But again, when you think about Pompeii, there's a lot more work to be done there. So I think maybe what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to get more into the site that I want to look at tonight sooner, doc, for because we do have a shorter class tonight, and we probably not more than likely be finished at about 9 o'clock. So one of the exciting things I want to do, I want to show you just these quick images, and then we'll come over them and we'll just explain what this is about, right? And that there. So we do a bit of exploratory archaeology with this thing, and we're thinking, what is this? And is this Roman? Up until the 1980s, this was Roman. Yeah, it really, really was. The Clevedon Dyke was Roman. Where's the Clevedon Dyke? Clevedon Dyke. But basically, it's called the Clevedon Dyke, as Bill and I learned. Right, Bill, can you remember when we went to Orkney, when we were on the island of Rousey, and Julie Gibson was talking about a dike, and I think I was looking around and thinking, I was looking around thinking, what's she on about a dike? I can't see any dikes because I thought a dike was a ditch, and then she points out, Bill, doesn't she, that she's got a dike which is a bank. Remember that?
I don't know, Carl. She plied me with so much whiskey at the end. I didn't know what the it was. Do you remember?
Bill, that's not the answer I wanted anyway.
No, I can't remember that, Carl.
Yeah, no. Basically, what it was, I'll put you in context. We went to the other side of the island of Rousey, and she was talking about the lord of the manor. He kicked everybody off the land, and then he built a dike. And the people instead of they went up into the upland areas of the island of Rousey. And she was pointing over. She said, "A dike over there," and I was thinking, I can't see it. There's a dike. Look at it. And she was actually talking about a bank like this, not a ditch in the ground. So then I realised that in Scotland, a dike is a bank, and in the south, it's a ditch. That's where it gets confusing. Right. Wow. Anyway, so the point is that the thing that we've just looked at, right, the Clevedon Dyke, is marked on this map of 1978 of the Roman stuff in Britain. Right, quite proud that I've got this still. And what we've got is that we go back, and I've got to tell you about these other frontiers in Britain. So what I was going to do tonight, I was going to, up until a few days ago, until I sort of realised I might be making a bit of a mistake. This is Clevedon Dyke, right? So this would represent one of the most furthest of the Roman frontiers. And archaeologists used to believe this up until about 1980, but we do a little bit of investigation tonight. So what that would have meant is that the furthest north Roman frontier in Britain would have been this Clevedon Dyke, which we know is well, depending on who you read, it's probably up to about 3 miles long, which isn't a massive frontier, but it was thought by people that this was actually a Roman frontier. This would have been the most northern Roman frontier in Britain. But what we're going to do, we're going to discard that a minute, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to talk about this mapping stuff. So you got the name there, Gascoigne. Now, Gascoigne is, at this minute, the most northerly Roman frontier in Britain. The most northerly Roman frontier is not this one, the Antonine Wall. And when we talk about frontier, what are we talking about? Military frontier? Are we talking about defensive frontier? Well, we're not going to go down that avenue because we've already had the discussion. It's really difficult to work out what those words mean in regards to the Roman occupation in Britain. So let's just do a little bit of a timeline. So what we're going to do, we're going to, unfortunately, we're going to skip through a load of images, right? And we're going to go to this one here, right? So let's just do a bit of a recap. So what we know of Roman frontiers in Britain so far, if we do it in chronological order, so this is the Port Way. This would be the most northerly stopping point of the Roman military, roughly, and maybe all the way over to Exeter. So we can't disclude that, right? So this sort of grey line and this sort of yellow line would have been the most northerly frontier in Roman era Britain. When this changed, it was changed by about AD 50, right? So what we then got, this is the most northerly frontier in Roman era Britain, all the way up to about AD 60. This is known as the Fossa Way or the Fossa Way. So the green line, the Fossa or the Fossa Way, and the yellow line further south is the Port Way up until AD 50. So we got it so far. So AD 50, and then there goes stats to go awry. So yellow line, AD 50, green line, AD up to about AD 60 in the Boudicca Rebellion. Something then goes awry, and we've got another as the military is moving north. They're moving with Agricola. Follow the cursor. They're getting to this point, right? So roughly before AD 60. No, wrong. Before AD 80. Roughly around AD 75, the third frontier, maybe there's one bit further south, but I can't identify that. You've got the third frontier, which is known as the Staingate, which is associated with Corbridge. This is why Corbridge is south, at least 3 miles south of Hadrian's Wall. The reason why it's south of Hadrian's Wall, right, is it's part of the Staingate. It's Staingate. What the Staingate is sort of a raised road with a vallum, a ditch either side, right? That's very similar to the Fossa Way, and it's very similar to the Port Way. The most amazing bank that we do find across Roman era Britain is the Fossa Way, back to the Fossa Way, which was the frontier up until AD 60, which remained a road, as did the Port Way, as did the Staingate. So we with it so far easy. Then we completely ignore Hadrian's Wall. Then we completely ignore the Antonine Wall and we go to where my hand is here, which is Gascridge, right? Gascridge is the fourth frontier in Britain. And it's very likely that Gascridge remained in operation way into the 200s, maybe well beyond into the 300s as well. But then what happens? This is in the age of Agricola. We're not talking about Mons Grappius. We're not going to talk about all of that. Tacitus writing about Agricola and all those firkins to do with that. We're not doing that. We don't do really history. We do archaeology. Let's focus on that. So the point is then what happens is technically is it a withdrawal, and that blue line actually continues all the way maybe to Aberdeen. Actually, it's not shown on here, right? The Deer Street actually continues, right? So we'll look at that on the other map in a short while. So the point is that then what we do is the Romans then build Hadrian's Wall. Now, this is where it gets interesting. They build Hadrian's Wall, but there's lots of Roman forts, there's lots of settlements, there's lots of villages between what would become the Antonine Wall and Hadrian's Wall in the sort of lower part of Scotland, the lowlands of Scotland, this area here. It would be full of everything. So why are you building Hadrian's Wall in the 120s when you've got loads of Roman military stuff north, and it remains Roman military north? So that comes back to the sort of the thing that Hadrian's Wall is not really a defended frontier. It's a frontier division of sorts, but it's not. It's more of a customs gate, right? So then what we've got the time of Antonius Pius by roughly about 142, 143. The Antonine Wall is built, but at the same time, the same thing is happening. Where the cursor is, you've got our Dock Roman fort, which is still in operational order. And so it's very odd, right? So when the Antonine Wall is abandoned, here we go, by roughly about AD 160, right? Our Dock remains in use, Cramon remains in use, and so does Hadrian's Wall. And you're thinking, well, what are these things actually for then, right? And as it's very likely, so we'll go on to the other maps in the maps because everyone loves maps. One point that Andy made last week was when we were struggling to work out what the Antonine Wall actually is. It was like, so basically the Hadrian's Wall is made of stone. The Antonine Wall is basically made of earth, right? And the analogy that I made two analogies. First analogy is a Roman analogy. You build it out of earth because it's not meant to be permanent. It's not really a military frontier. It's not a defended frontier. It's something else, right? So there you go. We do the Roman analogy. Hadrian's Wall is made of stone because it's always meant to be a division. It's always meant to divide between the south and the north, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Where it gets interesting. Where is northern Roman Britain? Probably where my hand is. Everything north of that is northern Britain, and everything south of that is southern Britain. It's a very difficult concept to work out. I did say there's another way of looking at this, right? And the way of looking at this, as I slurp my tea, is that when you think about this, when you get into the understanding, right? When we did prehistoric Iron Age Britain, well before the Romans, for example, well before the Roman period, right? I said that permanence in a prehistoric context is actually earth, and stone is not permanent, right? And you think you should shout at the screen and say, well, how do you explain Stonehenge? It's still there. How do you explain Avebury? It's still there. And I would say, well, most stone circles are not. But what is still there is the earth, right? For example, Marlborough Mound, for example, I think it's Scunthorpe Mound as well. And also, but the big one is Silbury Hill. And you're thinking earth is actually more permanent because it's always there. Stone isn't. So if we look at it that way, if we look at it like the Native American way of looking at sort of the landscape, permanence is in the soil, not in the stone, which we in the West would say, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to go back again. Sorry, I'm having to troll through all these images like I'm doing, but there is a reason, because I don't really know how this technology works at this minute, but that's life. But yes, Anne, I've been doing Zoom for a long time, but this is I'm still learning this laptop Zoom version, right? Anyway, so what we've got Magaret's book, right? We mentioned Magaret's book loads of times, right, up to now, right? Magaret is this guy going around with the tape measure and a couple of other people, right? And he's recording all the Roman road network in Britain. I got to be very specific. When you look at Magaret's book, you always think he's going to be talking about Roman stone roads. What he's doing is talking about alignments, whether it's an alignment of a trackway between A and B that was originally an Iron Age site there, an Iron Age site there, but the Romans actually utilized it as a trackway, right? That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about stone surfaces, right? That's what Magaret's getting at. We're talking about alignment of routes. It should actually the book that Magaret's book, which is where is it? Right, where's Magaret's book? Magaret's title of Magaret's book basically said Roman roads in Britain. What it should have actually said is Roman routes in Britain, right? That's what it should have said, because when people think about roads, they think about stone surfaces. That's not the case, right? So anyway, back to this. So you can imagine being Magaret's wife and his children, right? What we've got to do, children, we've got to record another 1,000 miles of road this year for my new book. Oh, no, Dad, I don't want to do any more roads. And the wife is saying, if we do any more roads, you're having a divorce, mate, right? But anyway, the point is he managed to publish this Bible, which is still used today. So one thing that you can say is there's Carlisle, there's Hadrian's Wall, there's the Antonine Wall, Hadrian's Wall. Look at all the roads, right? Look at all High Rochester, for example. Look at all the other sites, the Cramond, for example, all the places that are Roman places, right? Birin's there, Newcastle, they're all of these places are Roman towns, Roman forts. There's loads of villas, settlements, everything. So back to the point: if Hadrian's Wall is a defensive frontier, right? Why are they occupying the north, right? That is the point. No, don't need to answer that. We'll keep that there. We'll answer it another day, right? That's interesting. Camelon. The Scots have actually got a claim for King Arthur. They believe that Camelon is the place of King Arthur. But anyway, we'll move on. But the one interesting thing for me that we're doing now is that when you look at the Firth of Forth, and you look at the Firth of Clyde, and you look at the Antonine Wall, and you think, right, where the cursor is, there's Glasgow. Where we got the other, where we going? We got Edinburgh. We got all this landscape here. We got Stirling, and we're thinking, hang on a minute, right? There's a lot of activity going on, and then you've got the Roman site at Stirling. You've got the massive Roman fort at Ardogh. You've got Inch Tuthill, and the Roman road keeps going all the way to Aberdeen, right? So this itself is actually the legendary Deer Street, right? As I mentioned. And one second. No, I had to stop the cat. Then he was attacking the bumblebee's nest that we've actually got in the building here. So every now and again we got bumblebees flying around because they got a little nest in your bed. Anyway, cracking on. So the one point with all of this is that it doesn't make sense that you've got all this Roman stuff going on beyond the Antonine Wall. You've got all this Roman stuff going on beyond the Hadrian's Wall, right? So there's something else going on, and this is what we're interested in. If you follow the little cursor from the River Teith all the way through to the River Tay, and possibly a little bit further on, this is known as the Gask Ridge, right? And the Roman fort at Ardogh, Inch Tuthill, is something completely different. That's in another league of its own. So all of what you've been through, all of what you know, is very, very different. So when we look at this again, it gets very exciting. Now, what is very exciting? It ties us in with what we're going to do as well. So it ties us in around here. If you remember, by where the cursor is, it's got something known as the Clevedon Dyke, right? Where's the Clevedon Dyke? When is this map dated? It's dated to 1928. And where did this come from? Can you remember this on the wall in the I'm talking to Richard. Can you remember this on the wall in the Romley part of the comprehensive school, Richard? Because this is the original map that you used to see in Brian Luxton's history room. There it is.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, I when they were chucking a load of stuff out, I grabbed it. So yeah, this was on the room, right? And that might actually be Soapy Luxton's writing. But anyway, the point is that when we're looking at 1928, there's no Clevedon Dyke on here, but the Clevedon Dyke was believed to be another Roman frontier. What makes this a frontier is the fact that it's got signal stations along it. It's got a raised road. It's got all these forts, and basically, I said earlier on, this is southern Britain. Here is northern Britain, because this is the most northerly extent where the Roman military we're aware that they went to. But you can clearly see here is that the Romans are actually getting to Loch Tay, and they're actually going further. The one thing that we think that we know about the Romans in Scotland is that we don't really have. One second. Hang on a minute. Pat's phoning. Can I get this? Pat's phoning. Hello, Pat.
I'm back. I climbed out of my depression.
Do you want to come online now?
Yes, please.
Right, Pat wants to come on. Have you got all the usual thing? Have you?
No, I can't find it. I forgot how.
Right. Okay. Guys, we're going to take a tiny little bit of a break a minute. Pat, what I'll do is I'll send you a link to this phone.
Okay, will that work?
Yeah, I think so. We'll have a little bit of a chat, and we'll have a little get together. So we'll see you online in a few moments.
Okay, good.
Cheers, Pat. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Right, guys. Right, we're not going to take a normal break there because it seems to be a little bit of one of those weeks, and I'll explain something if this is a bit frustrating. What's happened is on a Tuesday, somebody has actually come back to the class, which is brilliant. And I've got 2 more of you coming back on here. So what I've got to do is I've got to send the link to Pat now. So Richard, you're going to have to look out for her. So here we go. What we're going to do. Anne?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor? Can you send the link over to Pat?
I don't know how to do that. Oh.
Yeah, hang on a minute. I'm just gonna do something a minute. Hang on. Sorry about this, guys. We're just gonna try and get Pat on. So we're going to try and get Pat on now. Sorry about this. We'll get her on now. So hang on, folks. This technology might be beyond me. Hang on. Right, anyone know? Hang on a minute. I'll just do this. I'll get it over to Pat via a minute. Second. Hang on. There. That off. That off. Leave. There. 1 second. I think I know what I'm doing. Right, here we go, folks. So what do you think of this so far, Bill?
Think of what?
What we've been talking about?
The quality of the lecture?
Yes.
Well, it's certainly an area which you don't read much about. What went on north of the underlying wall? Another frontier again. Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe they launched the boat from there up to Orkney, possibly.
Exactly.
Hmm.
That's another thing. That's another thing. So
Was
yeah,
on
here
the
we go.
other side.
Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. I wish Pat had phoned me a bit earlier on. I could have done it. Hang on a minute. So we're just hang on. We're just trying to get this link. Copy link. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Pat. There. Right, I've got it. She's got it. And we got that sent to her, and I'm gonna get Pat, Anne, it's not sending to her. It's not sending. Hang on. 1 second. Pat. Okay, 1 sec. There. Right, Anne, I've just tried to send her a link via her email, but I can't seem to get it over to her phone. I'm blocked.
Carl,
yeah, go on.
if she opens up a computer, clicks on Zoom, Google Zoom, right, and then you give the meeting number and the password, she could try that.
Okay. I'll hopefully Anne's just got that. Copy link. I'll just get that over, and we'll get that to Pat. Right, we'll get that to Pat. And I'll just give her a ring now quickly. Sorry about this, guys. If I only knew the code. Right, hang on. I'll just phone her now. 1 second. 1 sec, folks. We're nearly there. We'll get into full swing in a minute. Right, okay. I'm going to have to crack on. She's not answering, so... Anne? You're muted.
My music?
Right, have you managed to get in touch with her?
No, I haven't got her contact details, have I?
The thing is, I've just tried to phone her, and what I'll do, I'll continue to the break, and we'll just we'll crack on. Anyway, right, we're going to crack on. Sorry about that. We're going to crack back on, and she might make her way back on, so we're going to go to that. So anyway, Bill, are we looking at that map again?
Yes, the coloured map.
Good. Anyway, we're back to this, and we'll go up. We'll probably go up for about another 20 minutes, and we'll see if we can get Pat on again. So, anyway, right.
I think you are.
Anne, mute yourself.
I think you had a landline number.
Anne, mute yourself. Because I'm cracking on. I'm carrying on. Right, good. Okay, so what I was saying is that when we look at this from 1928, this is, as Bill pointed out, is something that people do not discuss. The one thing about all of this is that in regards to Scottish archaeology, much of the uplands of Scotland remains unexplored. You've got the Grampians, you've got the likes of the very heavy woodland and the very heavy forests. They're only starting to do extensive LiDAR across it. They're even finding whole Iron Age forts, Iron Age hill forts that nobody knew any existence of. They're finding whole landscapes of prehistory, medieval in the likes of Scotland. So it's going to take a long time for us to get a real true picture of the Romans in Scotland. But so far, this here, the Gask Ridge, is our most northerly frontier in regards to the Roman occupation in Britain. When you speak to lots of Scottish archaeologists and lots of general Scots people, they say that the Scots never really did much in Scotland at all. That is clearly untrue. The other thing that's mentioned, people say, oh, the Romans were only in Scotland for a very short time. I can assure you that they were at Arddoch Fort for a few hundred years. And that is the point. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the other map, and then it'll lead us into what we're going to do. We're going to do that after the break. So what we're going to do, we're going to say, when we get to 1978, a lot more has been added to the map. So 50 years later, this Ordnance Survey map, they've added a lot more detail. There's more of these small squares, signal stations along the Gask Ridge. You can basically see that there was not much north of the Gask Ridge on the earlier map, and there's a few more things north of it. And look at all these wonderful marching camps, which actually head towards Aberdeen. There's a lot more going on. But interestingly enough, other than these other marching camps, which are not on the other maps, sort of northwest of Inch-Tuthill and so on, you've got this Clevedon Dyke. Now, this is really interesting. I was going to jump in this week and talk about the Clevedon Dyke as the most northerly Roman frontier in Britain. Some archaeologists would agree with me, but research has changed and we think it's something very much completely different. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at this. Okay, we're gonna go forth. We're gonna do this, and let's look at the research that I've managed to get to in regards to the Clevedon Dyke. Now, it was in the 1980s that people actually started to question whether this was actually a Roman frontier. What they were finding through the archaeological excavation work is that they very much thought that there's unanswered questions. It was excavated in the beginning of the 1900s. It was excavated in the 1930s. The excavations told us that it was a substantial bank. Excavations told us that this staining here, if we go back, this staining here was in fact a ditch. This has all been ploughed out, so the bank is now removed. But in amongst the trees and in amongst the freshly felled trees, you've got this dike, which is a bank, right? So you can actually clearly see it on that image. It goes for several miles. That is a cross-section of the archaeology in 1939. And this is the Clevedon Dyke marked on the map, an Ordnance Survey map. So we're just thinking, well, north of the Antonine Wall, it definitely looks Roman, doesn't it? But there's something not quite right. So this is what we're going to talk about. So the Clevedon Dyke. So at the top of this, what we're going to talk about is the Clevedon Dyke is a linear earthworks, or pseudo-linear. It does bend and twist, running for probably up to 2.5-3 miles, or maybe less. We don't really know. It's located north of the village of Mechlor, which we're going to actually get onto that map. There we go, Mechlor. Within the broad valley of Strathmore, on a plateau between the rivers Tay and Isla. It comprises a pair of widely spaced parallel banks, which ditches, right? Which is in fact these things. And then what we then have, so we've got these parallel ditches, and what we then have in the middle is this bank. Now, what we've got preserved in the woodlands, so if we look at the other image, in the woodland, you can actually see it there, sort of quite clear, it's raised. In the well, it says woodland, but this is clearly a forest. But in this forest, there's over 1,800 meters of it in the forest, which are traceable. And then in the open fields, what we do have, if we go back to the other image, I know it's making you probably giddy. There's an alignment that can only be seen from aerophotography. There is at least 350 meters, with a lot more that is sort of there somewhere or not. So when people started thinking this is a linear earthworks, this is definitely Roman, people started thinking, hang on, there's something not quite right. And what wasn't right is that something that was in the published work since the 1900s is that the part between that ditch here, which is a stain, and that ditch here, the ditch itself is between 38 and 50 meters apart. It's not regular. So if this had been built by the Roman military, surely it would be regular. But however, I would argue against that, because Hadrian's Wall is not regular either, right? But the Antonine Wall is. So that's that. So interesting enough, the ditch itself, you can see it's slightly narrow there and it's slightly wider here, if you can sort of squint your eyes, right? They're saying that the ditch itself varies in width between 1.5 to 5 meters wide, right? That's the ditch. So you're thinking, right, if this was built by one person, not if this was built by one organization, the Roman military, right? Surely there'd be some level of regularity to it rather than what's here. The other thing that they found out is that it's almost built in segments. Hadrian's Wall's built in segments, but this is clearly built in more regular or irregular segments. And the bank itself, back to the bank, this is again forensic archaeology at its best. So remember, there's Clevedon Dyke there on the map there it is. And to be honest with you, again, sort of interjection, you'd be thinking, well, okay, if that's the Gascoigne, right, and you've got the Clevedon Dyke, surely that would sort of indicate sort of an area that's vulnerable, right, that would cut off any attack. But there's a river in front of it, river, which all leads into the River Tay, right? So anyway, back to what we're looking at. So if we go back to the bank as well, the bank itself varies from 7 meters wide, right, to a whopping 15 meters wide. So if this was the Antonine Wall, it just doesn't work, right? And even today, it's 1.7 meters high, 2 meters high, probably up to 4 meters high. And with a drop of the ditches either side, it'd probably be about 6 meters high, right? But then again, what is this? Now, it's not really a continuous thing. There's breaks, right? So what you've got, you've got a length of bank and you've got a bit of a ditch, right? And
She's back.
What?
You're definitely back. Can you mute your thing, please?
Will you? I just need Pat's email address.
Right. What we're gonna do?
Tell me again.
Pat, I can't give it out publicly. What we're gonna do? We're gonna do this after the break. Okay.
Sorry, he's shouting at me.
No, I'm not shouting at you.
You are.
I'm trying to get on with my lecture, and
if you the message through.
And you've done nothing wrong, right? Just mute your thingamajig, and we'll sort it out in the break. Happy days, right? So back to the archaeology. So the one thing about this bank, even though it looks continuous, right, there's almost as if there's breaks in it, right? So you're thinking, okay, well, that would make sense if it's like a frontier thing. You've got people being able to pass between the bank, right? So that sort of makes sense, but there is something weird about it, right? So so there's these gaps. Now, let's just sort of do the tagline. Due to its apparent straightness and regularity and proximity to, there we go, we're going to mention this site, which is Inch Tuthill, right? Inch Tuthill. The archaeologists basically thought, right, Inch Tuthill is a major Roman fortification for the Agricola campaign into Scotland. It was sort of a massive fort that could house probably 2 legions, right? It was huge, right? And then it was just basically abandoned. So archaeologists have immediately thought Inch Tuthill, Tut meaning hill, hill meaning hill, so it's Inch Tuthill. So that's basically the translation for it. No idea what the word inch means. But the point is with all of this is that archaeologists for hundreds of years have immediately thought the Clevedon Dyke, because its association with Inch Tuthill, is definitely, undoubtedly Roman, right? Now, so all of this thing in up until the 1980s, and then things changed. The tagline is, we've now analysed this, and we do believe that it's actually a Neolithic monument, right? We think it's from aerial photography, it's actually a Cursus monument, right? And because Cursus monuments are you sometimes built in segments. We did this when we did the Neolithic stuff, and we do believe it dates back to 6,000 years ago. Because of the variety and complexity of the monument, which I'll explain, it's likely to have been constructed over a long period of time. We're talking about decades, when in fact, when you talk about the Antonine Wall, it was built over a few years, Hadrian's Wall built over a few years. If this is a frontier, right, it's not going to hit mustard, right? So when we're hitting mustard, what we're going to do, we're going to look at this. Now, the Clevedon Dyke appears to be first mentioned in a writer known as Thomas Marshall when he's looking at Scotland, known as Tour of Scotland in 1776. And he gives an account of this. Now, unfortunately, this is the problem, Goff. Unfortunately, Bill, this is the problem. People have said things about things in the past, and then they've gone on maps forever as being certain things. So, for example, I'll give you an example. This is a really weird example. When they started surveying Ogmore, right, in the late for the first main ordnance survey sheets, the published sheets after 1877, right, the proper first ordnance survey inch maps. Obviously, ordnance surveys existed before that. The actual published stuff that you can actually see on National Library of Scotland, the first editions of 1877. At Ogmore Castle, for example, if you used to look at maps then, that you've got good old Ogmore Castle, good old Rob's farm. You've got the Pelican opposite, alongside Rob's farm towards the on the right hand side of Rob's farm. It's marked, the square on the map, Roman fort, right? And it's been marked on maps forevermore as a Roman fort because somebody said that it was a Roman fort, right? When I was married, right, we decided to hire that field. And leading up to my wedding day, I was actually undertaking an archaeological excavation on this possible Roman fort. It was not a Roman fort at all, right? There was no evidence of Roman occupation at Ogmore. So the point is that this is the problem. When things are marked on maps, people believe them. And we look at the same with Llanelli as well. It's believed that there's a Roman fort at Llanelli because somebody actually put it on a map, but there's no evidence for these things. So back to this. So this was recorded in 1772, 1776 by Thomas Marshall, and he says as follows: the Romans profited of the commodious accident of the two rivers, the Tay and the Isla, which unite at a certain distance below. These form two secure fences. The Romans made a third wall of great thickness. So obviously the fences being the rivers, they're talking about the thickness, the bank between them and the ditch either side. But what this guy could see was basically mainly the bank, no ditch, right? So this is where the mistake was made. So defended again by a ditch both on the inside and the outside, but there's very little evidence that he's seeing. So it's a shallow ditch. It's nothing major like the Antonine Wall. So anyway, carrying on. These extend 3 miles in a line from the Tay to the Isla, leaving within a vast space in form of a delta. I must note that the wall is stylized the cleaving wall, or the Clevedon Dyke, right, or the Clevedon Wall, right? So from evermore, this became a Roman frontier. So this interpretation unchanged in 1797. This was thought as the Dyke first mapped by a Scottish guy by the name of Stobie in 1783, 1784, and he not only marked this as a Roman site and a Roman wall, he said it was associated with a Roman camp. So where's the other side of the Roman camp? There's something similar to this, which is if you, again, I mentioned in Ogmore, there's something similar to this between the River Ueni and the River Ogmore. There's a bank and a ditch that goes from the River Ueni and the River Ogmore before you go downriver as you get to Ogmore Castle, right? So you've got this weird thing like this, but that was thought to be Roman as well, but it's not. That's not been dated, right? So Stobie, basically, this cartographer in the 1780s, said that he marked this, but he had no proof to say that it was actually Roman. He admitted it's probably Roman, but I don't know if it's Roman because I got no evidence. So anyway, back to this. They excavated the great archaeologist Abercrombie, who was an archaeologist excavating lots of places in Britain, particularly Scotland. He excavated here in 1901 and excavated something like this, right? This is excavated by a chap by the name of Richmond in 1939, the same time that they're excavating the likes of Sutton Hoo down south by another archaeologist by the name of Basil. Anyway, the point is this itself is a cross section. They kept saying this is Roman, but there's no archaeological evidence in here. There's not a single artifact in here of any date to say it's Roman, right? And right, interjection outside the box. This is what we'd expect with the Neolithic site. Along lots of the banks of the avenues, which is a raised bank associated with basically, oh no, it's the other way around. So a Cursus monument is basically this bank, and an avenue is basically two parallel banks, right? So anyway, the point is, if we can look at the avenues and the Cursus monuments, what we can clearly interject from them is there's very little archaeological evidence from the prehistoric period in regards to those Neolithic sites. The archaeologists couldn't find any archaeological evidence to do with this, but they didn't maintain it was prehistoric. They maintained it was Roman, right? So there's no direct archaeological evidence that these archaeologists are finding. They're just doing cross sections of the bank. Abercrombie described it as perfectly straight, but he was wrong. When Abercrombie described the whole thing as perfectly straight, he basically said it's obviously Roman because it's straight. It's obviously Roman. There's a road over there. It's obviously Roman, right? Bad mistake to make, right? So many roads in Britain are not Roman, but people have thought they're Roman because they're straight. There you go. And basically, when people are looking for places called Langford, they expect that there's fords across the river associated with the Roman period. How much of that is true? That's another discussion. We discussed that before. So, but Richmond, Abercrombie said it was straight, but Richmond excavated in 1939 basically said that that there were bits of it, and then there was a break, and it went off in another direction slightly, and he was coming close. And he basically said, even though he believed it was Roman, it's valueless as a defense, right? But he basically said, as I would be saying tonight if I had done more research, right? I'd be saying it's a Roman political boundary, right? In Scotland, indicating that north of there's north and south of there's south. Job done. So modern interpretation of this, Clevedon Dyke, modern interpretation of this is that after the 1980s, the irregularity in the shape and the alignment of the bank and ditches was recognized from aerial photography. Such characteristics were more similar to Neolithic monuments, and between 1993 and 1997, a program of survey and excavation of the monument were carried out by an archaeologist by the name of Barclay and Maxwell. And they did lots of contour surveys and all the rest of it, ground surveys, field walking, all the way through the 1990s. So if we go back to that image here, and we look at the aerial view, that if somebody showed me that image, I would clearly say, look, this is definitely 101%, 1000%. This is Neolithic, right? That's what I would be saying. This is definitely a Cursus monument, or maybe an avenue. Right. So when we go back to this and we sort of think a little bit more, so I'm just gonna let this bloody cat out of the bag a minute. Go on, cat, out. Right. So basically, if we think about this is archaeology done properly. This is not me believing what I'm seeing, right? So the dike appeared to have been built in 5 sections, right? And built over different times. So you'd have one section, they would leave it, and over a few years later they'd build another section, right? It's quite likely that there might be more than just 5 sections. There might be up to 30 sections, right? So what that means is that they were built for certain reasons and certain purposes, right? Along the length as well, there's barrows, right? There's several barrows also appear to be incorporated into the dike. Right, so that's another thing, but that doesn't mean to say it's not Roman or not, right? So as we get to the end of this sort of explanation, I'll go to another image as well. Just sort of let's try and get, as we think about this, and we're thinking about this, remember it's a bit higher, right? So the purpose and construction variations seen within the Cleven Dyke or the Clevedon Dyke, right, can only be guessed at. Cursus monuments are generally thought to have a processional function relating to the surrounding landscape. I believe that they were landscapes of the gods that nobody was meant to step foot on, right? And therefore, that's why we don't find any artifacts with them. While the segmentation of the monuments suggests that its construction was progressive over time, decades, if not 100 years plus years. Remember, this was in use from roughly about 6,000 years ago, maybe up to 4,000 years, is in use for 2,000 years, right? Longer than the Hadrian's Wall was ever used for. Hadrian's Wall was used for a few hundred years. This was used for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And so when we think about this whole thing about what do the segments mean? Now, this is really interesting. This is very different than, maybe it's not a Cursus monument, maybe it's not an avenue, maybe it's another type of monument in the prehistoric period completely, right? So they believe that the segments, you've got an alignment of a segment, might indicate a birth of somebody. They might represent an event. Maybe another segment is basically put there because it represents the death of somebody, and therefore that's their world within the land of death. That's the afterlife. The causeways, Cursus monuments, avenues, all to do with sort of the afterlife and so on. So the variation seen in the shape of each of the segments may be a deliberate way of emphasizing these different constructional events, while the difference between the more consistent northwest sections of the monument and the more irregular southeast sections may reflect a more fundamental change in design or intent. So they could have been used for different reasons, different purposes. Everything in history has different meanings. It's never got one meaning. I've said this before. Even when we look at the Roman stuff, the Hadrian's Wall was used for one reason and all these different reasons. And by the way, Richard, somebody else has tried to get on now.
Yeah, I've just gone and...
Yes,
However, it is essential to consider that whatever the reasons involved in the construction of the individual parts of the monument, it is overall a single monument, and continuity was clearly intended and an integral part of its function and meaning. So guys, I could have tonight said, but there's a sting in the tail to this, guys. There is a sting in the tail, right? I could have said that the Clevedon Dyke is definitely a Roman frontier, and maybe none of you have looked at some and you would have seen it in the notes that some archaeologists thought there was a Roman frontier, right? So, but we now know it's more of a Neolithic prehistoric monument, right? So this is what we've got within the trees. There you go, and this is what we've got as a cross section. There's in the archaeology, the Clevedon Dyke, or the Clevedon Dyke, as one of the writers said. There's more of it, and it's now classed. Interesting enough, it's all of it's classed as a scheduled protected ancient monument. It's massively important because it could be as important as something that I'm about to say. Right This existed in a Roman period, right? It existed thousands of years before the Romans. In fact, this monument existed 4,000 years before the Romans. 4,000 years. Get that into your heads, right? This was so old. It was ancient by a long thought of imagination to the Romans, right? It'd long since been abandoned, right? So just think about it. Just think about it. This is where the Creux de Gare is, right? So the Romans had Inch Tuthill. They basically saw the Clevedon Dyke, and they basically maybe dug out some of the ditches, maybe reinstated the dike, right? The bank, and they may have reused it. So the point is with all of this is that just because something may have been constructed in the prehistoric period, it may have still been used by the Romans for a purpose that we don't really understand what that purpose is. So, right, Anne. Shh. So what we're going to do now, we're going to find out if there's any questions, and we're going to find out what Anne's been blithering on about for the past whatever. So, and then we'll get back to normal after the break. Right. So what we're going to do? We got Pat there. Anne.
What?
Right. It's fine, Anne. Be quiet. It's good. Right. We've just added another Pat. My God, it's amazing. I have got 2, 4, 6, 8 people tonight. I am so pleased. Right, so after the break, we'll naturally settle down. It's good to have Pat back. It's so amazing to have Pat back. It's so amazing to have Anne back. Goff is wanting to listen to Melvin brag. Goff, is there anything you want to say so far?
I think it's the Cleaver Dyke, isn't it?
It's actually known as the Cleaver Dyke as well. Yeah,
Cleaver Dyke. Yes.
Yeah.
It's Neolithic, not Roman.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Thanks. Great.
So
no comment on that. That's good.
Goff, the point I was trying to make was that I could have convinced you tonight of a fact that some archaeologists still believe that is not clearly true. However, the point is the sting in the tail. It may have actually been reinstated by the Romans for the very purpose that archaeologists have said for years, but the exact purpose of its construction was in the Neolithic period. And this is another point, Goff, that we probably won't do this again, but I'm going to mention it. Silbury Hill was thought to be Roman, right? Because when Silbury Hill was originally looked at, there was Roman artifacts found on top. In the late 1700s, there were Roman artifacts found on top. So they thought this is a Roman monument, right? But it's not a Roman monument at all. It's a Neolithic monument. So this is the problem with history. When you find history is dated or understood on the last use of what that thing was. So we think, right, that's Roman, that's medieval, that's Second World War, right? The Marlborough Mound was thought to have been built in the medieval period, but no, it was built in the Neolithic period. So we've got to be very sort of to look at these things and be very intuitive. And you know, I'm gonna take a little bit of a punt. How do we know that bits of the Antonine Wall didn't exist before the Romans started building it? Has anyone actually really studied the Antonine Wall? Have they put cross sections across it? It's called the Antonine Wall because it's massively in use in the Antonine period, right? But is there more to it? I can't say any more, and I can't do the research on it because I don't have time. But I wanted to put that point in there. Thank you very much for that, Goff. Right, Pat, it's absolutely unbelievably brilliant to see you tonight. So anything you want to say?
Yes, I'm glad to be here.
Hello,
right,
Pat. Welcome back.
Hello, Bill. Good to see you.
And you're clear.
Yeah. And Anne and I are going to meet on Monday at 12 o'clock at the Costa Odeon.
I'm glad you sorted that out in my lecture. It was much appreciated.
Okay, sorry.
No, don't apologize. It's good to have you back.
Come too.
I would love to come, but there is one thing. What I will say to everybody: we do have little meetups in Barry every now and again at 5 o'clock on a Thursday, and we go for little walks and we have coffee and stuff. Anne will tell you all about that. Okay. And Bill can even park his car in the safe compound at Cannon Hill Art Space. You'll only have your windscreen wipers next.
I wouldn't say safe.
Oh, shut up, Anne.
There.
Right. Okay, then. anything you want to say, Pat, before we have a break?
No, just glad to be back.
It's good to have you back on behalf of everyone, including Bill. Right, Richard, anything you want to say?
No, very interesting.
Right, and no, we're not going to show images of you naked. Bill, what about you being naked?
The same old questions, Carl, about Neolithic works, avenues, dikes, ditches, etc. What the original meaning was.
Yeah.
That hasn't been resolved. It hasn't been fully resolved in Stonehenge. Even more difficult to interpret it where we are now in the north. Yeah.
Can I? If you haven't finished, but if you have, but I'm going to say Stonehenge can never be seen as one idea, one perceived concept. Stonehenge was built over 2,000 years or more, right? The person who originally conceived Stonehenge, right, is what is it, 100 generations before, right? And you're just thinking that nobody set out to build Stonehenge the way it became. That is the point. The difference between Stonehenge and say Hadrian's Wall, somebody sat down and they thought, right, what we need a wall from sea to sea. That's what we're going to do. But even Hadrian's Wall was not the final conception of the original architect, right? All of these things are homogenous. They're growing. Tim Ingold would say about the layers, the line, and about the sort of multiverse of archaeology. And this is what archaeology is. It's so complex. Right. Anne, anything you want to say before we have a break? No. Right. What I would say, Pat, is Anne's got a new friend called Hugh that she drags to Barry. And we meet up with Kate. So if you ever want to do a Thursday, it's usually about once a month. Richard will come along one day, but he's a bit of a coward if it's raining. We're going to have a break for 10 minutes now. It's 8:23. We'll be back at 8:33. And if you two want to catch up and in the whatever, and Bill, then that's fine. But me and Richard are going to go off and have a cuddle.
There we are. Enjoy
Right.
a cuddle. Enjoy a cuddle.
How are you, Bill? Are you okay?
Not too bad. How are you, Pat? Sorry to hear about your problems, but
I know. He passed away the 6th of February.
it's a tough time for you, isn't it? It's been really, really tough. Yeah.
It was pancreatic cancer. We knew nothing about it until the 21st of December. So it went quickly.
Been very, very difficult for you. Very difficult.
My daughter came back from America twice. The first time, the funeral. The second time, she'd already scheduled it. So she came in February and in May. So from America.
So you're looking after the dogs now? Still got the dogs?
Oh, yes, I've got 2 dogs.
There we are. They keep you busy. They'll keep you busy. Yeah.
And, 2 stair lifts.
Yeah.
I got a stair lift to his library. Movie books or history books, I've got them all.
Good, excellent. There we are. So she can start reading them now. No, it's nice to see you back. That it really is.
Be back. Are you all right?
Well, you know,
well?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Just still rambling. And
Good. I can't ramble at all. I have a 3-wheeler. Takes me most places and sometimes even in the house, you know.
Yeah.
It's my spine. It just won't cooperate.
You're in trouble, aren't you?
Doesn't hurt that much, but just makes me really tired and I just got to sit down. So I got a 3-wheeler that has a seat in it. So I can just sit down in shops. I pay at the cashier on my seat, you know.
Well, if it helps you, why not? Why not?
Or when you go to the designer outlet, they have free scooters you can drive around.
Yeah.
You can even reserve them, so make sure they have one when you get there.
Good.
They also give out free umbrellas in the office. You know, if it's raining, they'll loan you an umbrella, but then they say, "Oh, keep it. You can have it." It's got their advertisement, and you can get a card from the office.
Anne is trying to butt in the conversation here, Pat.
Yes.
Anne.
What?
Anne.
No,
You're trying to say something.
My volume's gone.
I know. I can hardly hear you.
You've got it. You've got my volume on here. It's on your phone.
I turned my phone off.
I've got mine still on. If I turn it off, I can't turn it off.
Well, you got to hold the thing on the right and hold the volume at the same time. Make it louder bit, and then the button on the other side. the volume bit, the volume going up higher.
No, I don't know what's happening.
I think that's what my son said. Push your volume at the top of the button, and then push your off button, or turn off button, and hold it, and it should come up, power off, and then you slide it across. Any luck?
No, you're still echoing. You're just echoing,
Yeah, you got to get that turned off. Push your thumb on the volume button at the top, and push the button for turning it on and off. And hold both of them at the same time.
Yeah, I did that.
Let's see. What can I see mine? Let's see it. Here's the side that you usually change the picture with. And then here's the one. So it should be something like
What
that.
about that then? Oh,
There's you. Oh
what
dear.
about that?
I can't get it.
Oh, that's all right.
Go
Can
on
you
my
hear
Richard
me?
now. See where he is. Richard, where are you?
Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you.
Can Bill?
Well, take your phone and put it in the other room.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, Pat just said we're going to meet. We could meet at the Odeon on Monday or Tuesday at 12.
I thought we'd have a sandwich.
I can't do this Monday or Tuesday, but Monday normally at 12 o'clock be fine for me because I've got an appointment in the hospital at 11 o'clock in the next few Mondays. So if you want to meet on a Monday apart from the next one, 12, fine, I can join you then.
Well, the 29th. Oh God, that's a long
We
time.
could do the
off.
Monday after, I suppose.
Well, we'll meet up then, all right?
We could do a week later.
Yeah, a week later, be okay.
29th.
For me, yeah.
The 29th, I got an appointment at 9:45 at the hospital. So that's a Monday.
Yeah, it's okay, is it?
So I'll be out by 11 probably.
Yeah. If you want to make it a week, I can make a week Monday, but not
Should
this
we
Monday.
make it a week Monday then?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's grand.
Is that all right for you?
Yes, that's fine. Thumbs up. Yeah.
All right then.
Okay. It's my son's birthday today, so I got to phone him now.
Oh, how old is he?
Right, okay.
48. He's Richard too. He's
Birthday.
Richard. Yeah.
He's what?
He's Richard.
He's Richard.
Oh.
Nice
He's
name.
Richard. Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to phone him now. So
48?
There we are.
Oh, have you got a coffee?
Yes, mine are 40, 46, 48, and 55.
What's that?
54. Yeah.
And anyway, Pat, I hopefully you enjoyed getting the notes in the post.
Oh yes, that was so kind of you. And it was just took me away from my problems, and I just went into archaeology.
No, that's good. Look, the main thing I'd say about Richard is that don't forget him.
Oh God, I can't.
Oh no, I'm just saying. People say things. Oh, you need to move on and all this. It's rubbish.
No, I'm gonna hang on to him.
Not yet.
Yeah, no, you've got to.
He'll be moving on with you.
Well, no, that's the whole point. You can't just. It's rubbish that you've got to forget things. You've got to keep people with you.
Remember everything.
Carl,
yeah,
you've got to
52
survive.
years.
You've got to survive.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Forget about them.
I'm gonna pop out. What, are you 33? Yeah, we got 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a coffee.
No, and I disagree. I think you should keep people alive. People who are important to you. I don't think you should let them go at all.
No, I don't believe we ever do, Carl.
Yeah, they're very important. Do you know? I've had to make the decision. I'm not going to go into it, but I've just had to close the door on my parents because it's just like really it's caused me so much grief. I've done so much for them recently, and it's just slapped me in the face. So my parents are not important to me. So I've just let them go, right? But what is important are the people that actually are important. And you know, I'm going to say something that is that I didn't think I was going to be saying, right? At the beginning of the year, I thought at the beginning of the year, I thought we were gonna probably amalgamate the classes because I'd lost two people on a Tuesday and they are both back. I'd lost two people on a Wednesday and they're both back, and I just thought that's really important. And obviously, it is really important because we must be doing something right in the evening. And I'm not going to. And I'm, to be honest with you, and it's been, you know, there have been interruptions tonight with you and Pat coming on, but I'm glad that happened because I'm glad you two are back. And it's not a problem, right? And it is great. It's like it's
We're a
what
bit
needed
of a
to happen.
family, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it is. I'm gonna Goff doesn't want to be a member of my family, but he is.
no.
But the, but the one thing I would say is that when I'm with my acting, and there's a lot going on with that at this minute, which I can't really get to grips with because I it's looking like I could win up to 6 acting awards, film awards, and so on soon, which is going to be a lot for me to take on board. But when I'm acting, I feel that's my family. I don't actually feel, other than Michelle, that I've got anything other than that. You know, so it's important that people are here, and we cannot we cannot sort of I cannot underline that anymore. So what we're going to do when Pat's back, we're going to get started. She's only going to be a minute, so we'll get started.
Well, there's not much to say, really.
Let's pour some milk in my coffee. Let's pour some milk in my coffee. Right, okay, coffee. Come on. What the hell's that music? If you can call it music. Oh, it's some decent music. It's German. Right. Okay. I think I tell you what. Right. It's 8:34. I'm ready. I'm gonna thinking about we're gonna crack on, and I think that'll be the best thing to do. So, guys, Richard and Goff, we're cracking on, and what I might do. Can I be very naughty and we're going to mute somebody? There you go. There we go. There we go. One person is muted. Right, so we're going to crack on with the images. And we're going to go to here. And there we go, Anne. I've muted you, Anne, because we're cracking on a minute, so you can unmute yourself in the break after the break. So we're going to get on with this now. I don't know where Bill is, but I need to crack on. So, and Goff, are you looking at that map again?
Yes.
Right. Okay, we're going to move on, and we're going to we've moved on from that, and now we're going to go on to Gask Ridge. What I'm going to double check a minute to make sure if there's these other images that might be, no, they're not there. So let's just crack on. So what I want us to do now is I want us to go to Gask Ridge. There's a whole society dedicated to Gask Ridge, Roman Gask Ridge project. So the point is the significance of archaeology. That is something that you may not have come across before. And one interesting point, in my Romans in South Wales book, there is actually an image like this of a signal station that may have once existed in Barry at the Glanamore site. And I had no idea of this image, but it's gone into the book, which Michelle did, and it's exactly the same as this. So we're all sort of thinking the same. We're going to come on to this structure, not yet, but this is one of those signal stations. So what we do have is this, going from Ardok all the way through, maybe to Bertha. Some actually believe further as well. The actual road itself is this Roman frontier. The road itself, as Staingate, as Fossa Way, as the Portway, these sort of mini frontiers, this is what we're talking about. But we've got these towers, these signal stations, that we're going to probably add more of these signal stations over the years to this. But these are the ones that we've got identified so far. And just a little bit of that over there is basically a signal station. And that has actually been excavated in more recent years. So they're really starting to look at the Gask Ridge as an independent entity of archaeology that is very, very much understudied. So as we move on, looking back at this plan, so, and this is the thing that we mentioned earlier on. Look at the Gask Ridge and look at these Roman forts north of the Gask Ridge, the Gallinga-Ross fort, the Fendock fort, and obviously we've already mentioned Inchturtle. And where we were earlier on was by here, underneath the lettering of the word fort at Cargill. This is where we were earlier on at Cleven Dyke or Clevedon Dyke, Cleven Dyke, or the Cleve. Now, Gask Ridge, Ardok Fort. This is taken from a research organisation called SCARF. Now, if anyone's looking at Roman archaeology, medieval archaeology, anything to do with the archaeology of Scotland, they go to SCARF, which is SCARF, which is the Archaeological Research Framework for Scotland. It's a brilliant resource of information. So the Gask Ridge system was constructed in, as we've already mentioned, was constructed roughly around AD 80, or maybe before. How do we know? Maybe before. So one thing with the Gask Ridge system, it's referred to as a Flavian frontier, or a Flavian occupation, or a Flavian defense work. So those words are really interesting. Flavian. What does Flavian mean? Well, at the end of the disaster that was the reign of of Emperor Nero, there was the year of the emperors. And one of the emperors that should come out on top was Emperor Vespasian, the former general. And Vespasian was a Flavian emperor, the first of the Flavians. He had his son Titus and Domitian. So those were the three Flavians. And those were the ones that sort of were the Flavian dynasty. So when we think about this, you could say it's a fortification system. And this fortification system, if we follow the black line, this fortification system is could be seen as a division between the upland areas, which you can clearly see there, and the more lowland areas, North Britain and South Britain, if you want to look at it that way. The Gask Ridge comprises align these little squares here along here. The Gascoigne comprises a line of forts, and obviously we got these red things, which are the watchtowers, and we've got other little fortlets as well. So there's a really there we go, fortlet there. There's probably loads more fortlets. The thing is with this is that this was a frontier, a division used for a much shorter time than we say look at Hadrian's Wall, or we might look at the Antonine Wall. But nevertheless, there is archaeology to be found at the Antonine, Hadrian's, and the Gascoigne frontier. There's still archaeology to be found. So we look at this, and when we want to sort of be a little bit more thinking in the Scottish way, so it defines this, if this makes sense to anybody. This frontier itself, these run from north of Dunblane to Glenbank to just upstream of the Tay, the Tay River, which is here. And it's then saying, and then we could basically say that it then stretches maybe a little bit further. There is debate whether the Gask system represents a frontier, a proto-frontier. What exactly is the Gascoigne? I can't answer that tonight. But the Gask line, Gascoigne, is logistical in nature. It forms a visage of the Roman world. It forms a connection with the landscape, and that connection was with the routeway. And this wasn't one of those solid cobbled stone roads either, so that's out the way. So one of the sites that have been really excavated is this site known as Ardok Fort, a fort which represents one of the best preserved Roman military earthworks in the whole of Scotland. That's really pushing it, but the archaeology is quite breathtaking, and we will actually come back to this again. But that is breathtaking. It really, really is. Look at the multiple banks and ditches. But there's a reason why it looks like this. It doesn't look like this because people are scared. The Romans are scared of being attacked, so there's all these multiple ditches. Listen to what I've got to say. So, Ardok is located northeast of Braco village and comprises a rectangular area of around 2 hectares. So that area of 2 hectares there, a hectare, so 2 hectares, that is basically 5 acres, 5 football pitches, big area. This is best and most impressively preserved on the eastern and northern sides of the fort, where 5 ditches survive up to 2 meters in height. So obviously, if we swept this around, you'd get an idea of north and east. So the southern elements, which is actually the top of the screen, the southern elements themselves have been ploughed out and sort of damaged by the roadway. But we still got a big chunk left to study anyway. So it's saying that this road itself occupied clearly ditches and banks that did exist into the middle part of the 1700s after the Jacobite rebellion, but obviously they've been filled in and flattened. However, earlier accounts of the fort do actually suggest that there's actually more. There's more defenses that people have actually recorded in the past around the whole thing. Now, how do we explain the ditches? The same way as I'd explain Cardiff Fort. So when we think about the fort at Cardiff, we originally think about Cardiff Fort being sort of founded roughly about 60, 70 years AD or thereabouts, or maybe a little bit after. And when we think about the fort at Cardiff, when we look at the fort at Cardiff, when we look at the limestone and we look at the red rather sandstone, and on top of that we've got the other stonework. The fort at Cardiff was rebuilt by the third Marquess of Bute under the auspices of the likes of William Burgess. So they actually built up from the foundations of the Roman wall. But the foundations of the Roman wall that you can actually see in Cardiff are actually the wall of the last stage of the fort at Cardiff. The fort at Cardiff, originally in the Roman period, the first fort at Cardiff was 4 times bigger than what you see today, massively 4 times bigger. And so what happens throughout the Roman period? The size of Roman forts retreated. So listen to what this is about now. So while the complex of the ditches and ramparts may appear to look like a single fort with multiple defense lines, these actually represent a series of superimposed forts over a period of 200 years. So obviously the largest fort, which probably extended beyond where my cursor is going, so the largest of the forts themselves was actually originally built probably roughly around AD 80 or maybe before that. And what we then got is running into the basically when the Antonine Wall was being built, if you want to call it that, because it's an earthen bank, they rebuilt the fort and Ardok. This is the strange thing. So what are they doing building this big fort north of the Antonine Wall if the Antonine Wall is a defensive frontier to stop people from the north getting south? See, it doesn't make any sense, does it? So the site itself grew progressively smaller and thus necessitating more ditches to be dug closer to the rampart as it moves inwards. Now, this is a really interesting point, right? And I'm going to make this. When the archaeologists started excavating this site, they revealed the ditches. So it's very likely that some of these ditches did not exist as ditches above the surface in the 1890s. What they did in the 1890s, they dug out all the spoil and all the rubbish from the ditches to reveal what's there, and that's what's presented. So that's probably not what it looked like in the 1890s. What they've done is they've re-excavated the ditches and they're presenting it there after 1897. So this is a really interesting point. So half of the fort's interior. So if we go to the next image, so there we go. This is lots of uncovering and excavating, digging out the ditches and stuff. So half of the fort's interior was excavated in 1896 and 1897 by the Society of Antiquities Scotland, which I'm part of. So this found evidence internally, and obviously the ditches internally, for example, evidence of long, narrow internal structures, barrack buildings. These clearly belong to different periods, a number of different periods. If anyone knows anything about Roman forts, they will know if they've got timber barracks. The timber barracks are going to be replaced every 7 years. If they're on stone footings, maybe they need to be replaced less, but if they're because of damp and all the rest of it. So what we've got is all this evidence clearly belonged to varying different periods over probably 200 years max. Some were of stone construction. Most were timber. So what we've got is that when we think about the stone construction of the fort, they started building stone structures at the fort after the initial stages of its build, which was originally timber before AD 80. So what we've got with this site is that they've done extensive geophysical surveys across the site. Let's just go back with the other one. We will be coming back to this site again. This is why I've got a massive number of images. So geophysics surveys undertaken in 2016 also detected long linear structures within the fort, which both matched within the position of the buildings recorded in 1898. So in other words, the excavations were pretty good in 1898. But when you think about it, this is a point. The point is as follows. Now, if with a gang of 5 people, right, that would have probably taken me several weeks to excavate because we'd have done it very precisely, right? When you think about it, if this fort is if a whole hectare of this fort is excavated, 2.5 football pitches are excavated in the space between 1896 1897, it must have been done quite rapidly. But nevertheless, they did actually record lots of the stone and timber buildings, nevertheless, before the start of the 1900s. So I like this little cross section where you've got, and actually we're going to have this coloured next week. We're going to actually have this brought alive next week, and Will's going to give it a go. actually, Will on a Tuesday actually does look a bit like this guy, but there we go. So this is South. Doesn't that look a bit like Richard, Pat?
Yeah, yeah.
Thought so.
I
You're going to say that, were you?
No.
No, nor does Will. Yeah, definitely. But didn't Richard have a bigger beard?
A little bigger, pointed, more pointed.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, we're going to have this coloured next week, Pat, so we're going to see what it looks like.
Okay.
So Southwest Rampart Excavation Trench at Ardagh Roman Fort. And what we've got there is showing some stone evidence underneath this bank. And you're thinking, right, okay, is that from an earlier phase? Probably it is. So what we've then got, we've got a really interesting map to actually show you of all the other stuff. So there we go. There's the Ardagh Fort, but then you're thinking about, my God, what is going on? What are all these Roman forts? This is a typical thing that's going on with Roman forts like this. I keep mentioning when we look at the Roman fort at Neath, right up on the common at Neath, there's dozens of practice military marching camps and practice works up there because they practiced. They told the soldiers to keep them busy. Right, so this is what's going on here. So some of these are actually earlier than before the fort, actually. So these may actually date well before, maybe roughly. Maybe about AD 70, somewhere like that. So that's really interesting. Lots beyond the AD 200s as well. So additional enclosures are also present outside of the fort. So when you, again, the arrow there towards the north, sort of east. So what we've got, these are classed as enclosures, Roman practice works, temporary camps. Some of these classed as annexes, parade grounds, all this different type of stuff. So as they've been doing the work here, these are visible as a combination of earthworks and crop marks. These enclosures vary in size with it. I can't really work out how accurate this is, but they're saying that that temporary camp there, that absolutely massive one, I think that they may have made a mistake here. It says 52 hectares. It's more like 52 acres, but it's a massive area. So that area itself here is bigger than the template for Maiden Castle, right? So whatever, this was several legions which were actually billeted here, massive. And when you think about it, again, back to the point I've actually made before. The point I've actually made before is that when we think about archaeology, right, and all this stuff is going on, if they're doing all this stuff, if they're doing all this military stuff, does this mean that they're under attack? The answer is no, because you're not going to be able to do all this if you're constantly under attack. You won't. But that is a good point. So what there is over here, just off the map up here, there's one of those. There's a watchtower, right, and this up here is the watchtower that they've excavated over there. They've excavated that watchtower there. It's known as the Black Hill, right? And is also present on the eastern defences of the largest camp, and was the first of the gas towers to be recorded. So in other words, that was the first tower that they recorded. Now they've got 20 of them. So there we go, right? So they've been working on that, and they really 1900s, and they got all these other 1800s, I would say. So what they've got, they've had to excavate here in 1997, and in response to extensive rabbit burrowing, revealed that this watchtower was defined by a circular double ditch. There we go, circular double ditch built in stages. Revealing a watchtower that would have been supported by two absolutely massive posts, right? So it was a timber watchtower. So then when we get back to the other, and that's basically sort of a reconstruction. That is a reconstruction of the temporary. There we go on the left. That's a reconstruction of this absolutely massive sort of fort over here, this sort of temporary camp. Again, it does actually say that this is 52 hectares, which would be so that's 52, that's 120 odd acres or whatever. That's a massive area. That'd be twice the size of Maiden Castle. I'm not exactly sure about that, but anyway, it's huge. And what they've got, that's evidence of an oven there it is. And so So when we're looking at this archaeology, and there is a bit of a description, it's basically saying concentration of the archaeological remains around Ardok arguably presents the best preserved Roman military complex surviving in Scotland. Images of the fort regularly appear in general accounts of the Roman occupation of northern Britain. Again, northern Britain. Do you notice the words northern Britain there? And the excellent preservation of the fort and part of the group of temporary camps in to the north as well, combined with the superimposed presence. Here we go. Some interesting words here. Flavian fort. So obviously it's from the Flavian period, roughly AD 70, AD 80, Antonine period. So we got the AD 140s. There we go, 143, something like that. Severan period, right? So we're now into the 200s. So when I'm talking about this is a fort that's probably in use for up to 200 years, the Severan period, right? The Emperor Septimus Severus with his campaign in Scotland with Caracalla and Geta. Or was it Galba? I'll get the two mixed up. Getter, I think. Anyway, the point is that has attracted much academic interest in several previous investigations. The importance of the Ardok complex is reflected in the extensive areas which are protected by scheduling, right? So, has something happened to the screen at this minute? Are you actually still seeing the plan?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Something weird happened then. My screen suddenly went black. I don't know. Oh. So anyway, shut up, Bill. There have been a number of finds recovered from Ardok, and we'll just basically mention this over the years, resulting from targeted excavations since the late 1800s. So obviously, the result of animal burrowing, lots of finds. They've got lots of Roman coins being found. The denarii, the silver coins, lots of Samian shards. So the Samian is going to come from Gaul. We've got stone ring. We've got stones from rings, like the taglios. One sort of stylized for the goddess of Fortuna, for example. And interestingly enough, this is really, really interesting, right? So if we go to let me get my orientation right. Okay, so what they've got, the most, so if we go back to the green grass of home, perhaps the most significant of these finds was discovered in the 1600s. A tombstone bearing a Latin inscription and the name of one of the soldiers who occupied the fort. And why is this massively important? It tells us where he comes from and how long he served. Let's listen to this. On the inscription, I can't show you with an image of it because I'm not exactly rightly sure it still exists because it was found in the 1600s. We've got this written down. So, to the shade of the late Ammonius, son of Damio, a centurion of the first cohort of Spaniards, who served for 27 years, his heirs set this up. So, in other words, that tells us so much. It's probably a centurion of a legion, right? Because the Ninth Hispanic Legion actually come from Spain, right? So it's likely it is a legionary because he did serve for 27 years. His heirs set this up. So we've got this this inscription. So he served 27 years. He was probably 20 when he was in the army. Did he retire? You know, really interesting. So little else can be said about Ammonius. But the memorial now on display in the Hunterian Museum, Scotland, provides a remarkable direct and humanistic link across the span of 2 millennia to someone who lived and died at Ardok Fort, who had come from a long distance away. And obviously, it's been erected by his family. So there we go. The family were with him as well. And it's in Latin. So it would have been his Italian family. Or when I say Italian family, Spanish family, but obviously speaking Latin. So finally, what we're going to do, we've actually got to 9 o'clock, which is absolutely brilliant. I've got to get the goats in after this because they're in another field. So due to its excellent state of preservation, the site of Ardok has been known for centuries, and there has been numerous accounts and plans of it have been made over the course of the years. And interesting enough, you can't see it now, but there was a medieval chapel there, built within the fort itself, attests to both the recognition and exploitation of the fort's provenance throughout history. So it's been used throughout the years. And when you think about it, the road, being constructed after 1750, that's sort of taken advantage of sort of the rocky, rubbly ground of the banks that were here. So they built the road across it. So its significance now is recognised throughout its status as a scheduled ancient monument, and it is this remarkable site that represents one of the most important for the study of Roman military expansion in northern Britain. And we will be visiting it again, and we will be going north of this site into Scotland to look at some of the other sites, but not yet, because we've got so much to do. Some really delightful stuff to look at next week, but we're going to call that a day. And there we are. And as a look at that man, we're going to get him coloured next week with all the grass and stuff, and it's going to look more like one of these images, or an image from the 1980s, except this was an image from 1902. So we're going to call that a day. A delight to have you all on board. And maybe, Henry's not going to be back for a few weeks, but when he's back, you'll all be back on board. My ship. On board my ship. Right. So Pat's eating a cake or something. I don't know what she's eating, but we won't with her mouth full. Right. Bill, are you waiting, Bill? Right.
Well,
Richard.
I'm just flabbergasted.
Hang on a minute. I got to ask Richard a minute. Bill.
You said me.
No, we're going to ask Richard.
Right. Let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Richard, hang on, Bill. Let's go for it. Ready.
No,
Richard,
Bill's ready. Bill's going first, I think.
What?
I think Bill's going first.
Oh, no. You two having an argument. All right, Bill, right.
Right, then. I'll go first.
Done this up. Go for it.
I'm just absolutely flabbergasted by the Ardox complex, Obviously, there were forts and marching camps being constructed there over many years, 200 years maybe.
Yes.
It obviously had quite a highly populated garrison. So why was it there? Was there any mineral wealth in the area they were trying to gather? So there's a reason why they go to that extent to build all that. What was there? What was the reason for doing it at that particular location? Do we know?
I can answer only part of that question. There's lots of practice work. So obviously there's no immediate threat. So obviously they're practicing, right? So obviously they're practicing these troops to sort of campaign in Germanicus, maybe. The other thing as well is that when you think about why they're in Scotland, we haven't really studied enough of Scotland to understand why they're there, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have all that mining stuff that we'd have in West Wales. We don't have all that mining stuff that we'd have in the Weald in Kent. We don't have all of that stuff. We don't have the evidence, right? But I would clearly say that we've got the Fort of Cramond, which is on the eastern side, just by Edinburgh, of the Antonine Wall, and Cramond is still in use in the 200s, as well as our dock is still in use. And you're thinking, well, if none of this makes sense, if these are military defended frontiers at the Antonine Wall, why have you got whole military garrisons and settlements north of it? Doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Yeah, no sense at all. I got two more points.
Please do. I'm not sure I answered that one properly, but it's probably as far as I could go with it. Go on, Bill.
Most people probably know that you mentioned Vespasian and Titus. Vespasian initiated the building of the Colosseum, and Titus finished it off, But of course, in those days, it wasn't called the Colosseum. That's quite a relatively new term, actually. It was known as the Flavian Amphitheatre.
Yes, you are right. It was known as the Flavian Amphitheatre, yes.
People may or may know that. The second point is, a week Sunday, I'm taking my Rambler group on a circular walk around Brecon and ending up at the Fort Urgail. Where we going to
you are naughty. You die 1,000 deaths, Bill.
I am, yeah. So at the end of the talk next week, can you just give us a little 5-minute talk, just 5 minutes, a brief talk about the Gaia, the history?
Do you know, I will do that because you've been going on about for ages. So I will do that, and we'll do Gaia, Bill. We'll mention that next week, and that will be done. And also, I was going to do this marble thing with Anne this week, but because there's more of you and Pat and all the rest of it, we'll do the marble thing as well. So yeah, I'll do the Gaia in a nice sort of easy way to sort of get some function of dates in there. So that
they're very brief, just 5 minutes or so, just to finish off. Thank you, Carl. That's my lot. Thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. I have to take him to the institute in Merthyr Tydfil soon, Bill.
Right, and thank you for the
Not
postcard.
Merthyr Tydfil. No, not Merthyr Tydfil. Maesteg. Maesteg. You have to take him.
Thank you
Yeah.
for the postcard. I have sent a reply.
Oh, okay. Right, Bill. But by the way, there's some very. Did you get a very naughty postcard?
They're always naughty from you, you know that.
All right, then fair enough. I guess Edward the Pat, just for the sake of argument. Welcome back. Okay, Bill. Thank you very much. Pat. Anything you want to say, darling? Good to have you back. Go on.
Gone blank. I have a new motto: be on time and be tidy. But don't manage to do either of them. You know, so.
All right, don't worry, Pat. You could start next week.
And you start at 7:30 or 7:15 when
It's 7 o'clock, but we don't usually get going until 7:10. So.
Oh, 7 o'clock, right? Okay, I had the wrong time.
Yeah, we do an earlier time because Goff needs to get his beauty sleep.
Right, and then afterwards, would you tell me how much and how soon I need to pay you?
All right. Well, we'll have it. I tell you what, I'll keep you and Anne on afterwards. So Anne and you stay on, and we'll have a chat about all of that. Whatever. You two stay on. Right.
Okay.
So when we say goodbye, Anne and Pat stay here. Right. So Goff, anything you want to say?
No, it's good. Very good about the gas sprint. Very interesting. Thanks for that, and good images as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Something for the new Melvin Bragg to look at. So that'll be good.
Misha Glenny.
Misha, so what we'll do, I'll write to Misha Glenny and say, why don't you? Well, get me on there. We'll talk about the exciting gas grid in our dock. We could do that.
Okay.
Good. So thank you for that, Goff. We'll have Anne next. Anne. Huh? Anne. My God. When you ask her to say so, all right, go and you.
You muted it.
You just you unmuted me now.
Go on, Anne. Go for it.
Only that, you know, it reminds me of the medieval field systems, you know, the sort of lines. I mean, they no, I missed most of it. So it's just very interesting area, obviously. And I did see it at I think we had our conference. No, we've done on Roman forts, so that's the difference. They're oblong, they're rectangle rather than round. So
the sense of the linear.
Yeah.
The sense.
I mean,
She's gone.
She's gone. Anne, come back.
She faded away.
She's faded away. Right. I tell you what. I got to have a chat with Pat and Anne anyway. So Anne can try and work out her link. So Anne and Pat stay on. So if what I'm going to say is if the likes, I'll just change my view a minute. Right. So what I'm going to say is that I'm glad that everybody's got back. If nobody else has got anything else to say.
Yeah.
Say that again, Goff.
You haven't asked Richard anything.
It's Bill.
Yeah, come on.
It's bloody Bill. Hang on. We built this up, right? Bill, right? Do you want to ask Bill, Richard, if he's got anything to say?
Okay, I'll do it. Richard,
Yes?
have you got anything you wish to say?
Yeah, I have actually.
Good day.
Well done, Rich.
I'm just saying that as Carl is saying, from the map, obviously more and more finds are being sort of discovered up to the present day, and it makes you wonder whether the Roman presence in a lot of Britain has been totally underestimated.
Yeah.
You've only got to have a look at some of the stuff that they've been, you know, with HS2, where they've been going through sort of just typical British countryside and digging up some amazing Roman finds that no one ever knew existed.
Complete Roman villas, even bits of towns, roads. Yeah, exactly. Tombs.
It could be totally underestimated. What, you know, it's incredible. The sort of, you know, sort of 1800 years or something, how deep things become buried.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's only costing us 110 billion.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Some nice,
At the
got some
moment,
nice
yeah.
statues and everything.
What a cocker. Sorry, girls.
Yeah.
And you could say the same about Stonehenge. They wasted £100 million on that on the road, and nothing's happened. So anything else, Richard?
Waste.
No, that's it from me. It's just interesting, the discoveries that are, you know, yet to be made.
And if you've got nothing else to say, Richard, I want to make a point. I said to Michelle, I said, look, if we look at Cymru Wales, we look, maybe there might be one or two Roman towns in Wales that have never been discovered, right? We've got a whole landscape from Igaia, Brecon, all the way through to say Wrexham, where there's very little domesticated, very little settlements, and there's lots of little bits of Roman forts around. And you're thinking, well, why are all these Roman forts in sort of the old county of Powys? What are these about, right? And there's basically nothing. And then you look at the archaeology, you start to think, well, they're starting to find Roman villas in likes of Aberystwyth, and they're starting to find them in West Wales. And you're thinking, right, what about the stuff in the middle? Because from that area that I'm talking about, Igaia, all the way through, it's been very little studied, right? We think we know about it. Richard's right. There's so much more there. And if we dug a HS2, all the way through the centre of Wales, or a new train line that some politicians want going across the Brecon Beacons all the way north, right? We'll probably find lots more material that Richard's mentioned. And I'm sure Anne can fund it. Right. If Anne and Pat stay on. So if nobody else has got anything else to say, thank you very much for your time tonight, and Richard. So I'm going to say good night, folks. So, thank you very good. Good night, Garth.
Bye
Good
then.
night,
Bye,
Richard.
everyone.
Good night, Bill.
Bye. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
I'll see you all next week. Take care. Night, night.
Bye.
Night, night, my lovelies. So Richard's still there. Bill's still there, right? So they right, okay. So right, okay. So God, it's awkward, Pat, right? What you said earlier on, because it's up to you.
Can I tell
Well,
you
when's
what
the next
happened,
£50 due, and how much do I owe you before that? You should divide by weeks, you know.
Right, okay. The if you want to do that, then if you want to do that, that'll be fine. So I'm gonna look. That would be greatly appreciated. Whatever. So what it is, the next amount. I'm gonna look at my diary now. So I'm getting confused.
Probably January, February, March, April, May, June.
Right. Oh yeah. So the next class fees, for July and August are due at the end of June, right?
No, but I've got to pay for June.
Well, if that's what you wanted to do, then well, yeah, however you want to do it. So it's going to be hang on, I've got to work this out. January, February, then we've got March, April,
and then May, June.
Right.
And we've missed half of May.
Hang on. Have I mucked?
Pounds, something like that.
Hang on. I just got to work out if I've mucked up, right? So January, February, generally with everybody, January, February, March, April, May, June. So that would have been paid at the end of April. No, I'm on right. So yeah. So that would have been May and June would have been paid at the end of April. So we're on May, June.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you want to do. So it's like
25. I don't know.
20. So half of 50 or whatever. If you want to pay for June, then it's up to you. So
yeah. And then we're in the system then.
You're in the system, yes.
Yeah, right. That'll get us in the system. Pay you 25. Yeah.
Yeah, if you do that, you get you into the system. That'd be great. Good.
Great. Okay, Anne?
Good.
We can't talk.
Anne, can you talk?
No.
Yes, you can.
We
We
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Hey,
We can hear you.
We can hear you now.
right. I was just going to say, I paid £50 in today into your account
Oh, right.
for 2 months. I'm going to do a standing order of £50 for
Right. So if you're doing a standing order for £50, right?
2 months. That's
So
£25 a month.
yeah, so that'll put you into another cycle. I'll just work it out. It's fine, Anne. It's fine. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
I put it under the check, the account 70, ending in 70.
I will. I can check all that. I actually I can check
I'm
all
just
that.
hoping that you get it, because
Oh no, I can check it now. I can check it now. I'll do it now. So technology. Yeah, I tell you what, this
With my bank's got your name and number, so I just go to my bank and just hit it again.
Yeah, I had it in my bank, but I did a standing order this time rather than direct debit. I don't know why.
you can't do it. Only I can request a direct debit, but I just
So what
double
you're
check.
doing is paying each time. That's what I usually do.
Right, so I just double checking this for Anne now, and I just wanted to have a chat with you about something else as well. So
Okay.
we're going to do that now. So right, I'll explain some.
It might not be there yet.
Yeah, what's the bank account number end in?
70, she said.
Yours
All right.
is 70, yeah. The one I paid it into. It was usually for Thursday night. I changed it to Wednesday. But it's probably the wrong one.
I'm looking now. I'm trying to work out. I'm not sure. I've got an account ending 70.
Oh God.
Hang on. Right. I've got an account ending 857.
Oh. That's an old.
Right. It doesn't matter. Could you want to read out the details now? Because nobody's going to be able to do anything with the details.
You set up a new standing order.
Oh, hang on. If you set up a standing order, it takes a day to do. So if you read out the details that you've got.
1368. That's my number.
Yeah. What's the end?
I don't
what?
know what your number is. I don't know what your bank number is. Have you got that 1368? Oh no, that's my account. Oh,
Right.
God.
Okay. It may have been this one, which is which ends 6992.
Oh, well, it's not written down here. I'll have to go to my bank and cancel it. I'll sort it out, Carl.
No, I
Which one would you prefer it to go into?
Well, the thing is, you may have actually sent it to the right place, but a standing order takes the standing order.
It won't come out till tomorrow, I don't think.
Yeah, because if you set a standing order for like the 21st of every month, you have to set it up on the 20th. You can't set a standing order up for the 20th on the 20th.
No, this is tomorrow is going to be started. So
which is the 21st.
It's a bit awkward for you, isn't it, really? That's the end of the month. Well, it's not.
Oh no, there's nothing's awkward at all. It's just that obviously Pat and I don't want you to be paying the wrong account because it's not going to be much good for anyone.
No, what account?
No, it's unlikely you've paid the wrong account. You see, you've probably paid the right account.
It's one of them. It's one of your accounts that I've got on my system, but it wasn't the 921. I don't think. No, it was 70. That's years ago, probably.
Yeah, mine ends 992.
That's the one.
Right. That's the right one.
You said it wasn't, you silly plank.
I didn't put it in that one. But
All right.
I just realised I should have put it in that one.
Right. Okay. Look, the way it works, right? The way it works, right? You haven't lost your money, right? If you've put it out, if you put it into a bank account that I no longer use, or you've sent it to a Barclays account which I no longer use, so that account is closed. It'll bounce back to you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Well. Because that's the I don't use Barclays anymore. Those accounts were closed.
Right. Okay. So remember that 921, and
yeah, but Anne, if you've set up a standing order for tomorrow, you can cancel it now.
Yeah, I will.
So you haven't lost anything anyway.
Oh.
So
no, I'm sorry, Carl.
Yeah. No, don't apologize. And I will text you the right details now whilst we're online. 25. What the hell's that? 25? What? Oh, okay. Right, so I'm gonna send this over to you now, and let's send Anne a text. Right, okay. We'll get this. We'll get onto this now. I gotta write this down. Hang on. We will get this done. So actually, guys, what we'll do, we're gonna take this off record now because anyway. So anyone watching on YouTube and TikTok or whatever, thank you very much for watching us. We're gonna don't forget we're back on next week, so we're gonna stop the live now. And thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll be back next Tuesday and Wednesday at 7:10 to whenever on Tuesday and Wednesday.